Dear listeners,
Welcome back to episode 2 of Pen Pals.
today we're going to be diving into a conversation we started last time about maintaining motivation and the will to take action after you're outside of college.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about what is it, maintaining that will to do all these things outside of college. We also wanted to talk about or give some context into what we did during college and what really were the things that took most of our energy and our time.
On my end, academia was obviously a big part of it. So when I was an undergrad, I was completing two majors, both of which were in different schools. So I had to complete basically full curriculums for both of them. And that resulted in me maxing out my credits since the time that I set foot into college. Same thing in grad school because we were holding our positions as assistant residence life coordinators just for a year, maxed out my credits there, so that definitely was a big chunk of my time right there. Outside of classes, big thing was working in residence life. Also, I was a club sports competitor, so that took up some time. I worked for the school newspaper, that definitely took a lot of time.
Mm.
And at least in undergrad, I was part of some pre law activities. I didn't continue throughout the entirety of my undergrad, but at least for my first 2 years. So I think that was kind of where I was at personally.
No, I was gonna say, girl, you did a lot. What do you mean? I mean, similarly to you, definitely maxed out my credits. I think there was maybe like one semester where I had breathing room and I felt like I was on top of the world. And I think it was, what is it? Even then, I was talking to people and they were like, girl, shut up. Like that's like my normal course load. I'm like, oh, well, my bad. Like comparing to the 18 and like, what is it, max amount that you can do and having warnings from your own, what is it, advisor saying, do you really think that you should do that? It is a little daunting, but well, we did our accelerated year, so academics is a huge thing, I would say for one. Definitely remember some classes, I was in the trenches for some of them, I'm not even gonna lie, guys. But apart from that, I also was part of a club sports, not competitor, different, I would say, but in a different realm. Apart from that, though, I also tutored. That was quite some time. I will go into some stories, but it was also very, I would say, I don't know, I think I learned a lot of lessons from there. And I think I grew as a person as well. I grew into my person and I think having like a character and being firm, which I'm very grateful for. As well from being a tutor, I also was part of residence life, apart from being an RA and then ARLC, which is like the assistance residence life coordinator, gonna do my absolute best to like explain on these terms and everything that we've done as much as possible. Also did that. And I mean, I was part of other clubs, just there was definitely a pre-law one in there. I was gonna say, I was like, wait, but yes, it was a pre-law one. Geared, I like to go also a lot of interest like from my community, I would say as well. That's a lot of the clubs that I try to get involved with, like the cultural, like the arts. Yeah, because we just like to try a little bit of everything. But that did take quite a lot of our time, as you can hear. As you can tell, we both did quite a lot. And we wanted to talk about also like what were some of the big stressors? What were some of the things that we stressed about back then that like looking back now doesn't seem as significant? And we're just like, wait, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. I don't know.
I definitely stressed about everything. I can't
Girl.
legally call it anxiety. I've never been diagnosed, but I was definitely anxious about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I don't think I really regret anything that I was stressed about,
Hmm.
despite it all being slightly always on my mind, really. Partially because I think when I was dealing with anxiety around
Mm.
things, I tended to really almost berate myself for how I was feeling, and it took a lot to
Mm.
get out of that.
Yeah.
I had to come to terms with like this is my reaction because I care about these things and I care about them deeply, which means that they're going to make me stressed and panic sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've kind of gotten past the point in my life where I do that to myself, and I don't want to go back to that and like shame myself for being as stressed out in the ways that I was.
Hmm.
I will also say I don't regret being as inundated as I was just because I was putting so much of myself into these things that I really cared about, and
Yeah.
I don't think that care would have ever gone to waste. Either I was
Hmm.
benefiting someone, I was benefiting myself, I was at the very least learning from everything, whether it was the easy way or the hard way. And
Yeah.
I would have honestly rather have been in positions where I cared about things extensively, even
Yeah.
if it did result in a bit of burnout or stress, just because I'm currently in a position where I don't feel the same kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say passion necessarily, but I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the same drive and I'm not stretched out
Yeah.
into like things that I care about the same way because those doors were simply open to me in college and they're not open to me right now. And
Yeah.
so, because of that, I kind of feel disconnected from myself and my work, and I'd rather have one thing than the other. The only thing that I really look back at and kind of regret stressing out so much over is just things that I didn't have control over. I
Mm.
definitely loosened my like grip across the time that I was in college, but I'm definitely a bit of a perfectionist. I'm definitely a bit of someone who likes to have control over things and have not my way in a narcissistic way, but my way in a sense of like I would like to see things through. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And in the earlier years of college, that kind of meant having authority over things like my relationships with people, my classes, the jobs I was pursuing, how I looked, how I
Mm.
carried myself, the
Mm.
organizations I was part of, whether I was just a participant or a leader. But I was also stressing about things that I really
Mm.
didn't need to be involved with. At most, if someone came to me, I should have just given my advice and called it a day. But I
Yeah.
would get involved anyways because I cared about them. And
Yeah.
I think the number one place I could point to that is just other people's relationships because I would care about the people who are in the relationships. And so when things happen, I would want to be there and be involved. And most of the times, I could have just stepped away. It really
Yeah.
wasn't any of my business.
It really wasn't. I mean, especially because people are going to end up doing what they want to do. You know, they're going to end up taking the decision and going with that decision despite any advice that you give them. And to your point, I really think that's like a really great stressor that you brought up that it really was out of your control, but we could have had more control over, hey, having boundaries. And I think that's one thing that I really learned in college was like boundaries, guys, stronger boundaries and being more firm and like being assertive with it, like growing. And even now, I'm still learning and growing to be who we are becoming. But like there were similar to Rashida, like, damn, did I stress about everything? I feel like every moment there was a racing thought in this brain. And if it wasn't one thing, it was another thing. And I'm always like, there's like, I feel like a list. I think of that SpongeBob meme. Guys, I just talk in memes sometimes. It's so bad. It's like a SpongeBob meme where like, it's like he's on fire. Like, it's like, it's his brain.
I
And
know
like,
which one
it's
you're
like
talking about.
dumpster trucks. Like, all of, I'm like, oh my God, that's how I feel like sometimes because there's just so much happening. And I would just stress. I'm like, be it a paper, be it the responsibilities of showing up for my club, because you know we would have what is it? We would have fundraiser, we would have all these other extracurriculars of how we had to show up in our responsibilities. That it wasn't just a role. Being an RA, I mean, and even just being also when we were ARLC. Gosh, damn, I think just even I would say giving care to things that we shouldn't have or giving so much more importance to. And I mean in the best way where like maybe I didn't have to listen to all the drama that like my RAs or like what is it, my like lovely residents had from before. I could have maybe put a pin on some of them because I think then but I also did care for them. And like Rashida was saying, we always I don't know, there's a level of like I'm okay with that care. I'm okay with that stress. I mean, I'm okay with that stress and I'm okay with that because of the caring or the part that I care about it because it matters to me. It feels like I'm not only being of like service to others, I'm also feeling like, wow, like I can make a difference, even just like small interactions, be it in just like these little ways. And so I don't know, maybe I don't want to say so it's masochist, but I want to say like I'll take it. Like I'll take the stress. I think like I don't want to say we might have find a better way of saying it, but I do not mind, I would say, taking on and shouldering on that responsibility because at that time it felt very, maybe I had a stronger, I would say you said drive. I think it just maybe felt more tied to a purpose. I think the fruits of the labor were seen immediately. I could talk to my residents or I could talk to my RAs right then and there. We would yap with them. We would
Yeah.
grab, what is it, like a lunch. Um, I think of like that. I mean, for me, the things I would say that I might have not been serious at all. I think we also kind of touched about this. You were saying about being a control freak, I think. Same, but because I think it's just being the oldest, it's being like the eldest daughter. Like I'm not saying that's like a personality trait or nothing, guys, but It's hard. And the reason why I say that and I bring that up is because some of the stuff that I stressed about were things with my family. I don't have to show up for them in a lot of ways. And while I was a commuter my first 3 years, I, be it that my sister was going through something and I wanted to be there for her, of course, but there are a lot of times where I was stressed about my family, about their issues, and it didn't allow me or give me the time, I would say, or the control over like what I needed to actually do. And I don't know, I look back and I'm like, some of these things were not serious at all. I promise you, it would have been calm with the FaceTime. I did not have to drive all the way back home or do all these things. And so I think that goes hand in hand with like learning, okay, boundaries, learning what you can take and what you can shoulder on. But there were quite some stuff and no, but all of it, I think all of it to a certain degree, even back then, it was serious. It felt serious because it mattered and it is serious. But now having this different perspective, right, that we are like realizing, and I think seeing like for me, I don't know, one thing that I really try to I guess see like a way of prioritizing, okay, what's gonna really be beneficial? What is it that I have a stronger responsibility to? So then it's like I prioritize that to like that stressed and lessened in a way, if that makes sense. And then it also feels like I'm fulfilling my purpose. I feel like I'm being also purposeful to someone else. I think that's, I don't know, Arshid, if you have any other.
I actually did want to add, I think two
Mhm.
things based on like what you said. One being, I don't know if it was the same for you, but looking back, another thing that kind of did stress me out is it felt like everyone was asking for things at the same exact time. Everyone wanted it immediately, and most of the times it didn't have to be immediate, but it
The
felt
sense of
like it.
urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the
Yes.
one thing of, because everything mattered, like it felt like everything had an equal level of priority, so all of it had to be done the moment like it came up. And
I
people aren't like
know.
someone at my journalism job is not going to know that I have something for like my club sports thing either. They're just going to ask
Yeah.
me things, and for me, at least I don't know, I probably could have like asked for things for like extended
Mm.
time on things and I didn't because in my head
Mm.
they were equal in value, and so
I
I would
know
want
what
them
you
done at the
mean.
same time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you put it into like per I think that that's something I didn't even think about, but yes, because that's something that I'm learning now, like prioritizing. Okay, I need to be told this is more of a top priority, but I'm like, how? If, or at least like back then, right? Because we were part of these organizations, we were part of these clubs, we were part of them, and I'm like, okay, well, I can have the expectation that of this person knowing what I'm doing, or I have this, I have to do that, and then I'm like, damn, in my day, I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I feel like back to back to back. I'm like, when do I even have time to see myself, guys? Like, I'm seeing everybody, I'm seeing everything, but even just like me. And yeah, but it because all of it held equal weight. And so then it's like, how did then we manage to see, okay, we need, I mean, that's the whole point of them. I don't know. I think sometimes then I realized I bit off more than I could chew. And then I'm like, oh, wait. And also having to take a step back, I would say, in certain like roles, at least for me particularly, I realized that I was taking on a bit more than what was for my role or the responsibilities of my role. And not that I regret it, it gave me the experience, the lessons that I needed, and I am very grateful for that. I think it also helped like me grow as a person. Like I said, I'm really always learning and wanting to become a better version of myself. But to that, I realized I'm stressing myself out like crazy. Like I'm doing things that are out of honestly my realm of responsibility. And at that point, it then led to like being out of my control. So I really had to take a moment to be like, I had to look at things I always say from a third person, like a third eye. Okay, well, but what is it? A bird's eye more than anything, and see it in an unbiased way. Like, okay, objectively, that like no, I realized I needed to take a step back for my sake because also there were other, I would say, not issues, but more so um, just concerns of like how I was feeling, and I wanted to put my best foot forward, and I realized I wasn't giving my best at that moment because of how I was feeling. And so in order then for me to show up for my club, I was like, I need to take a step back. And that's something of like, when to realize, okay, maybe I need to take a moment, maybe I need to take a pause and take a breather, and having those like insightful, like it's self-awareness at its finest, truly, I would say as well. But that's an art too. Self-awareness can be a lot too, I will say.
No, yeah, for sure. I like actually you brought up the other thing that I was gonna say is that I think the other stressor that I didn't like I kind of just made it part of my life, even though in
Uh-huh.
hindsight it probably didn't need to be, was just like making sure I looked my best at everything I went to and like
Mm,
even if I didn't feel my best and I usually did not feel my best, to be candid. But yeah, like
Yes.
there was always just like a pressure of like no one else needs to know that I don't feel great. Like they're gonna expect me to like put together and be able to deliver on everything, and I could
Oh
usually,
my
but like at
God.
what cost? And again, like was that
Yeah.
really that big of a stressor? At least looking back, it probably didn't need to be. Like maybe I could have put my hair up in a ponytail and I would have been fine instead of having it like all ready to go
No,
every
like,
single time. But that was just like one small thing.
no, I agree with that. I think that's actually very, very insightful because for one, that I think I still grapple with that. I think growing up, you always have to be presentable. Like, A, also just, what is it? You want to put your best foot forward. It's like how you look is like how they treat you. I don't know. I think growing up with that type of like conditioning in a way, that's like how I like to call it. It really creates this form of like, okay, you need to be well dressed, you need to be presented well. And then also to that, you need to also act as if I feel as though nothing is happening. Like everything, you have everything under control. And I'm so tired of that in the best way possible because I don't, in a weird way, I think I don't want to be looked at like I have everything together because I don't. I think people look at me and then, or even look at us, right? And they're just like, oh my God, how are you able to do this, this, and that? But I'm like, guys, no, because actually there are some things that we didn't need to stress about. There were some things that we could have probably like taken a step back or relaxed on. It didn't have to be, I think, as deep as it was, but I don't take away from those experiences. It made us who we are, and I am grateful for the people that we are today, genuinely. But I realize I'm like also being able to just be genuine. I think being authentic and being vulnerable, that helps with lessening that stress. At least I see it as, because then it's like you're lowering your guard for a bit. Like you don't have to always be presentable. There are times where you can also be comfortable and still be presentable. And also not act as if everything you have everything together. And I think that comes with like having your support systems or having people that you trust, right? I'm not saying go ahead and tell everybody your business. Definitely don't do that. But having like your trusted few that you know that they want the best for you, you want the best for them, and being able to confide in them. And I think that also helps with like lessening the stress of like not feeling like you just have to deal with it by yourself. I think, I don't know if you also felt this way, Arshita, but like dealing it with like in isolation, like I felt like sometimes isolated despite the fact that I had community or I had people around me. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I was stressed about that, and I'm just like, why? Like, it's weird. It's a weird,
No,
weird
I would
time.
definitely say people like make or break a lot of this. I was actually thinking about it today. So for those of you who don't know, Em and I have like a pre-podcast ritual where we sit on FaceTime and we do our makeup together and we yap before we come over here and yap to you guys. And I was thinking about it, and I realized that Pam is actually the only friend of mine, I think, who has seen me without makeup. Because I started wearing it when I came to college, and I don't think there are many friends who have seen me like uncover just like moisturizer or whatever. And it's a small thing to think about, but I think I've gotten so used to just if I'm around people, I have to have like a kind of persona on.
Yeah.
And it's people like Pam who have helped me like even unknowingly. I didn't realize it until today, literally. Because she doesn't know
Wait.
that. So she didn't even hear
No,
me.
I'm like reacting like this is like a
Yeah.
live because I'm like, wait, I'm like fawning. Like, I'm like, oh, wait. No, Arshita, I feel so, oh my gosh, guys, and this is how pen pals got created. Like, but our friendship, that is, but truly, you see the impact of how that, oh my God, like just, oh wait, I'm honored. Sorry, I'm like geeking right now first than anything. Because it's just such a small thing, but it means a lot. Like it truly does. Like you're able to kind of just, I don't know, in a way, you feel safe. I think you, like, it makes me feel good that I can provide that comfort in a way. And you feel like just comfortable enough that you can have that. Like you can be all of your persons. And it's not to say that we're putting on like performances or facades. It's because like, it's this way of like we just have to have had it together
Yeah.
growing up the way that we had to be. I think that's really what it was. It was ingrained. Like at least for me growing up, my mom was always like, you need to make sure like it's, I don't know, like don't air out your dirty laundry type of thing,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And then like everything would kind
The
of
scene
get
in public,
swept
struggle
up.
in private kind of.
Yes, yes. They're like, oh, you may be going through it, but okay, we're gonna act like you're not going through it
Yeah.
actually, because people don't need to know that.
Yeah.
But then that also created such a toxic mentality. Not saying that this is toxic, but like in a way where then how I don't know, I think it also kind of started having me question like, am I being genuine? Am I being real? Does this mean that I'm not showing up as my true self? But I was like, no, this is still me. This is still a version of me, and we are allowed to have all these like different like versions and faces of ourselves. We're like onions, and we are literally just like all like layers. We're discovering ourselves. But yeah, oh my God, Arshita, that's such a crazy thing. Oh my God, wait, I'm kind of like, oh guys, I'm like honored, I would say. But oh my
Really
God,
quickly
yes,
before, because I know we also have to keep it moving. We got so much to talk
yeah,
about. The last thing I was gonna say is, and this kind of I think bridges what you were
hmm
talking about before, of
hmm
like, yes, if you have a strong community, leaning on them is a big part of it, but
hmm
not everyone has a strong community or they're not always
yeah,
around. I've definitely gone through periods where like I'd
hmm
rather have been alone than have not been with people because the people I was surrounded with did not necessarily have my best interests or care to support me, or at least it felt that way for me. And so I think what Pam was saying about like at least being true to yourself and know like having the self-awareness. I think that
yeah,
the times that you are alone, it's a great time to reinvest into getting to know yourself, whether it's just like trying out new activities so that you can learn a little bit about what you do like and what you don't like and your limits, or something as simple
yeah,
as journaling or reflecting. Even you don't even have to write it all out. Sometimes just sitting with yourself and thinking about the things that you're going through.
yeah,
It's not the
guys.
same thing as having somebody else to vent to or like to build a relationship with, but it definitely is better than not thinking about it at all.
I was gonna say, guys, date yourself, but I think in a way, it kind of is because you're discovering yourself, but also you're self-reflecting, and that builds. We were talking about self-awareness. You're able to then really, I think this also kind of goes into like the discipline. You're building trust within yourself. Like
Yeah.
once you're able to reflect on that, who knows yourself better than yourself? Once you
Yeah.
really like take that time to like take a breather, like reflect, like invest in yourself in ways that are truly investing like internally, not just externally. Because one thing is to do the external work, I say, but then it's another to do the internal. I said like date yourself, but I think really like if we talk about making life more whimsical, romanticizing it because you know yourself better than anybody else. You start to then like realize what you like, what you don't like. You start to see like who you want to surround yourself with, what is really like your character. I would say you are the creator of your own world. And I think with that, we were talking in our last episode about like discipline and framing it in a different light. And I liked how Rashida was framing it as making it a promise to yourself of how you show up. And how you show up to yourself is like if you make a promise to yourself, you're trusting yourself. And by trusting yourself, you need to know yourself. How are you going to trust somebody that you don't know? And so I think that kind of goes into this whole thing of like doing things that maybe excite you, that like you find interesting, that other people may not find interesting. There have been times where I've gone to, I think Arshita, like if you go to her TikTok, because you better, right? And you see all her solo dates that she goes in New York, everything, and even with like friends, she has like the best amazing recommendations. I think I look back to when I went to the movies. It was such a scary, nerve-wracking, I would say, experience to go by myself because I'm thinking, oh, the perception of others, what are they thinking, and all of these thoughts. But I realized I was laughing at things that maybe other person may not find funny, but I found hilarious. I got to order whatever drink and food that I wanted to order, and it didn't have to be something that oh, I had to share with my siblings or like a friend, we wanted to maybe share us something, or you're compromising. No, I think that's really what you learn and you get to know yourself. And it's a very beautiful way. And we're still learning ourselves as like we're growing in our 20s and through these times that we're going through. I mean, that was post grad. Well, I mean, we are post grad. This was like grad, and we're talking now, we're entering a different, I would say, like era, I think, a different stage of our lives. Still being that we are in our 20s. And it's interesting. I mean, this is why we're here to like talk about it, so how we can navigate it together. Bring us back to talking about all these different things that we did. All the different, I would say, commitments that we had, all the energy that we put forth, and the difference in how our life is right now with our full-time job. Why does it feel different, I guess? Why do the stakes feel different or feel, I guess, lower, or do they feel higher? I don't know.
It's on my end at least.
Hmm
Rationally, I know the stakes are a little higher now than they were before.
hmm
I am very fortunate that I do have my family and I stay with them and everything, but
Yeah,
rationally, when you're out of college, you're funding your apartment, you're funding your basic needs through a job. And so the way that you show up there really does matter. And so
yeah,
if you fumble your job, you're gonna fumble almost other like every other area of your life. If you have kids or other dependents, then there are even greater consequences in comparison to when you're in college. A lot of us have definitely made mistakes in college, but you live in a little bubble where there are consequences, but they're not
Yeah.
as life-threatening as there are once you leave. And yet,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel the same level of intensity to the consequences
Mm,
that I have. I know that they're more intense, and I obviously treat the things that I do with the seriousness that they need, but the
yeah.
feeling versus the thought of that is different. And I would say a big part of that is just when you're in college, everyone around you is rushing. Everyone is trying to be at the top of their game in every aspect of their life. You have to be the best
Mm-hmm.
in your extracurriculars. You have to be the best in your classes. You have to be the best, best, best so that you can have the best in life later. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, once you make it out of college and you do have a job, you have that gold medal that you were working towards, and everything kind of slows down a little bit. And so, if you're not surrounded by people who are constantly rushing, you don't feel the
Yeah.
same level of intensity. The environment that we were in college is very, like, conducive to stress, which still unhealthy. Still not saying that we should romanticize that part, but
Right.
it also does breed passion and energy and like really
Mm-hmm.
pushing yourself to the limit. Again, within
Yes.
reason. Within reason.
Yes, I think everything's about balance. I think
Yeah,
that's the whole point, right? That's the 20s, guys, finding that balance and figuring out you, figuring out all that you want. And I like how you did talk about it, Arshita. Like the stakes are definitely higher. I don't take away from them not being high because, I mean, a lot of people's livelihood depends on their paycheck. I mean, it's their way to make an ends to meet. Yes. Yes, sorry. What is it? That's like to fulfill like their basic, I always like to say like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs of like their basic functions. And so because of that, it's different. It's a different, I would say, feeling. And the way I would describe it, I was like reading about this because I remember taking a psychology course, but dissonance, it's like a dissonance, like an emotional dissonance, or like I think, or like cognitive dissonance of like knowing that it is obviously more important. I would say they're more detrimental in comparison to the stakes back in, what is it, college. If I okay, missed a deadline. I just asked for an extension. At like worst, I mean, my grade took a couple of points, like not even my entire grade, just my grade for that paper. But that was at most. Whereas now we're talking about rent, we're talking about bills, we're talking about your car note, we're talking about your groceries, right? And like Rashida said, dependence. Like it's not just anymore yourself. And while I also want to recognize as well how I would say I'm very grateful for the position that we both are in, where like, yeah, we live at home. There is not much of I would say responsibilities in comparison to like other people. Where I always think about the meme where like I don't gotta work as hard. I don't have a kid, but there is still that responsibility of how would I say, wanting to push ourselves and challenge ourselves. And like Arshita said it, the the stakes may have been lower in a way in college, but I don't think that they were lower. I think it was just more so because it was still high. We were still, for that piece of paper, we were working hard, okay? I would always say that. Like our name on there, that is hard earned work, okay?
for sure.
Like crazy. But I think to also like Arshita was saying, you're in a environment where it's conducive to bettering yourself and to like pushing yourself, where it's like okay, where it's conducive to stress. You are gonna have stress in your workplace, but I think you're all in the way like at the same level, like playing field in a way. Whereas I think sometimes when I was in college, there's also that like how would I say competitiveness, right? And it fuels that ambition, it fuels that drive to continue. And it worked too. Like, oh my gosh, sometimes they talk numbers. I'm like, guys, oh, okay, we're competitive here. But it does, but you see, and that's why a lot of team bonding is built on like competitive games or whatnot to build like have competition between one another to really foster that I would say drive and get drive results. To that though, it's weird because I feel that I'm not doing like I don't know, it doesn't feel the same. Like I'm not doing my best. I'm not putting my like I know I am in a weird way. I know I am doing my like absolute best. Like I'm performing. I'm obviously looking for ways to not only do my absolute best in the workplace, but also within my personal life. But it feels weird because I think it's just it feels a little, I just feel far removed maybe from my work, and I feel far removed from the ultimate goal of where I want my career to be. But it's not as if I'm not grateful for all the experience, all the wisdom, and the lessons that I'm getting from my team, I would say, my colleagues, and just getting to speak to all these different, like, really, like, how would I say, like, bright people. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I think it's like we look at it also, it's like we're at different stages. It's an era where it's a stepping stone. It's a literally like a stepping stone to our um, next step in life and what that looks like. Because also, it's so uncertain. Times is uncertain where we don't know how or what that may look like, what that may be. And I think we're both very fortunate to have a security of like the job that we do that, like I said, it puts food on the table. And I'm very grateful that when we talk about taking into consideration the times that we are in, like the job market, it's very difficult. It's people are right, even just to what is it, have a sustainable income can be like it can be a hardship. And so to that, I also want to recognize about how fortunate we are and the place that we are in right now. So we talked about, right, how I was in college, like being surrounded by like-minded people made it feel much more intense and much more like there was, I guess, a drive to there. But now we're talking about making our own choices. We're talking where I think we also had like a tie or responsibility tied to these people, and so we were of service to others. Whereas now we are, I guess, really, like I said, I hate saying this, I say it so many times, the creator of our own world. But we're writing our own books, we're writing our own narratives, right? Where it's more now on us. It's now, we're not relying on like pre-registered or like scheduled courses. We're not relying on whatever times that we had responsibilities, be it for our clubs or for our meetings, for jobs or whatnot. So does, I guess, creating your life, making your own choices, make everything feel more manageable since it's on your terms now? Or do we feel as though it was more manageable back then?
I feel like it's a yes and no for me.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I
so
think
real.
back to what I did when I was in university, and
Hmm.
for the life of me, I could not tell you how I did it. It was managed. Was it manageable? TBD. Would somebody in my shoes have done the same things? TBD. Um, I also, I think in general, when you leave college, like once you graduate, you are more in charge of your life than you were before. Just because, like you mentioned, at least for us, we had very community focused roles across the board beyond just being in residence life. And so a lot of our time went back to us because we're not spread in like a million different directions
Yeah.
the same way that we used to be before. But I don't know if that necessarily makes it more manageable because I think this is
Hmm.
one of the first times in our lives that we have to reconcile with the fact that we do have the power over our lives and we're responsible for whatever comes next. But that
Hmm.
means that if we succeed, we're responsible for that. If we fail, we're also responsible
Also,
for that. There are things that we do need to work on in
yeah.
ourselves to make sure we have the outcome that we want. And come to terms with the parts of you that are holding you back or sabotaging you is a really hard thing to do. Honestly, it requires like a level of just like a reality check with yourself. And not
Hmm.
only having that check, but then actually changing your behavior in line with that afterwards. So it's a two-parter, both of which are really difficult. So I feel like in some ways, when you're thrust into work assignment after work assignment and you deliver on it, you never really get a chance to like actually unpack yourself
Yeah.
because you're always just doing things. And so that part is a new challenge and it is a little I think unmanageable in the beginning because you have to reconcile with the fact that you have to do that work and you have to keep doing it for the rest of your life because you're the only one who's going to be able to do it after this.
I know. I kind of like I don't like that. I'm like, guys, maybe not. No. I'm sorry.
No, no, yeah. And then I guess the other thing, and I
Yeah.
think you touched on it a little before, it's hard to say that you're in charge of everything that comes next right now, like at the point of life that all of us are in, the
Yeah.
places that society is going, that the world is going, there's a lot of uncertainty, as Pam put it. Okay, for those of you who were watching this on video, my lighting did change a little bit. Sometimes we have technical difficulties, and it is what it is. But, anyways, the second part of what I was gonna say is that it's hard to say that people are in charge of their reality because there are so many things right now that are out of our control, and it would be like I would be remiss not to acknowledge the fact that like rules and laws are changing day by day. A small example I can give without like getting too much into it is that like a few weeks ago, being a nurse was a very valid and professional degree, and come next year, it will no longer be recognized as that. I am not personally a nurse. I do work in an office that employs nurses, but just thinking about that, like the rules are changing for everyone. And so, yes, you can be in control of your actions and you should, but sometimes when nothing feels stable outside of you, it does also kind of make it hard to believe that life is manageable post grad. That's just something that I wanted to acknowledge too.
I appreciate you for acknowledging that, honestly, because I mean, briefly touched about like not having sustainable, not there really being a sustainable income, especially we're talking about the job market, but it's so much more, I would say, pressing. There's a lot. It's a lot to it. It's very convoluted. However, we're not going to get too much into it, but really just want to also address that these are hard times. I think for anybody and everybody, we're all going through it and we're all feeling, to a certain degree, to a certain extent, the repercussions of what's happening, right? And to that, I mean, how would I say? You were talking about like answering your question, yes and no, where is it more manageable, right? Because like you said, you think back to things, and I'm just like, dude, how did I do that? Like, what were you on, honestly? And I'm
And
thinking,
nothing, that was the thing. We weren't even doing
like,
anything.
not even coffee, because, like, I was gonna say, guys, because the coffee, I can start hearing my heart beat, okay? So at that point, like, I'm just doing this, I don't know, straight delusion. I literally think straight delusion, but in a weird way, like, yeah, I think. I don't know, like I think that it wasn't easy though too, because I definitely had crash outs. I definitely remember crying some nights. I definitely remember like feeling pretty low at moments, but I definitely also reminded myself that, well, you know what, babe, you went through it once, you're gonna go through it again. And it could have been just small things, but I kind of apply that to everything. I think to your question about like what is it, I like how you said yes and no to it being more manageable, because it did feel in a weird way like, I don't know, I look back and I'm like, how even was everything done? How was straight delusion, straight
Fumes.
fumes, like not even coffee, not even, what is it, because I was coffee, I could start hearing my heartbeat, so it wasn't even that, I couldn't even do that. I think just, wow, I really do think it was just straight, just you, I lack of sleep. There are some nights where I remember we're like, oh my gosh, how did I even go through this? But I think of it like where we've gone through things before, we've had so many hardships, but like you've made it out again. And I don't want to say that in a twisted way, but I think it kind of offers some sort of like, we're talking about trust within yourself, that you start trusting yourself, that like you can pick yourself back up pretty quick. And once you start being also real with yourself, because like Arshita was saying, offering that reality check, that you do need to be real with where you're at, with who do you see in the mirror, and what is it that you don't want, or what is it that you don't like, because we all have those moments, but also not tearing yourself down and knowing that there's still you, and how are you just fine tuning yourself and managing things in a better way. And the reason I say that is because I managed it, but could I have managed it better? Sure. Oh, 100%. I think there were times where I was like, I procrastinated. I said that was definitely not needed. Now, see, had I managed my time maybe better, I could have obviously lessened the amount of crash outs. Were they still there? For sure, because I cared. And I think that's going to be the case where, like, no matter what, due to there being a level of care and everything that I do, I'm gonna want to put my all into it. I'm gonna want to do my best. And when things don't go, I guess, like the way I planned or the way I envisioned, or just something is different, I would say, it's gonna cause a little bit of a little bit of a rocky feel, I would say. It causes some uncertainty. But it's weird. I think being able to have managed it back then, I felt like there were times where I didn't manage it at all. That's why I said like I think I bit more than I chewed, and I also wanted to okay, I had to sit down with myself and be like, what can I handle and what can I not? And how am I gonna be able to show up for them if I'm like being spread so thin, right, in different directions? To that, I would say things now, how it feels. It feels, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's not manageable. It feels weird because I feel as though I used to do so much more, but then why am I not being able to do as that or as much as that, I would say. And it's this weird feeling of having to give myself grace, but also like, I don't know, not reprimand myself, I guess you could say, for feeling these feelings because then I start to feel like guilt or shame in a way, which is really weird. Well, not really weird. It's just because I don't know. I'm like, well, no, like I think of like my brain is like whenever I take a break, oh, you could be doing this, you could be doing that, you could be doing like all these 30 other things. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I have been doing all these 30 other things, and it's weird because it feels like it sometimes feels like it's not sufficient. But then having to like talk to yourself and really, like I said, put it in a way and framing it to, it's all about like the betterment for you, the best way where same way you can create your success and it's manageable, like you can also create your failures. You're going to be a part of that. And I think you have to choose your hard and finding ways to really make it work for you. Our versions of success look different from everybody's. Even like me and Arshida's, we still have like distant like versions of success, despite the fact that it is similar in certain aspects. My friend, like we, all of us, we all have different versions of success and how we accomplish those and how we even go about, I would say, accomplishing our goals. Nonetheless, though, we can learn from one another, and I think of it as like what works best for you. And I love when Arshita gives me certain methods or certain tips and tricks, and she's like, "Oh, you could like this is like a best way because like certain brain hacks." I would say the best way with like for me, I need to have a visual, so I now have like all these like to-do list notes. Arshita, I remember back during our grad year. This is not even like a few months ago, but she had this like magnetic board on her fridge, and it was like a to-do list or things that she needed to get done on a daily basis, I would say. But then it had like a slide as like a switch that like it showed okay, check mark or an X that when it got done and when it didn't get done. And it's just such a simple thing, but I think like that's just one way that you okay manage what you needed to get done. Okay, she wanted to still show up for herself, and also like it was a way to hack your brain. At least that's what works for I guess both of us, because that helped me. And I started doing a different way because I was just like using the X's and the check marks differently. But I really do think of it like that as like finding ways to manage it, but being real with yourself and also being real with like where you're at, right? Being real where you're at and not to, how would I say, think that you're gonna just build Rome in one night. You're not gonna become everything that you want and who you envision. And I think that can be very idealistic. I think it's like you just have to start embodying that person now and start with the small things. Start with like showing up for yourself. Start with doing those small changes in those habits. I think about atomic habits. It's about building and compounding those habits. And then that's how it'll grow and that's how you build, I would say, better habits for yourself. And that's these are things that we're learning and we're taking on. So yeah, I was gonna say I take things with a grain of salt, guys.
Yeah, I guess to slowly bring us towards the end of this,
Mhm.
what are some ways I think I'll share mine and you can share yours that you've
Yeah,
found ways to sustain motivation and that will to take action, kind of where we started from with this letter.
yeah. Um, to sustain motivation and a will to live. Guys, sometimes
I
I
did
feel like,
not say will to live. I said will to take action.
see, guys, she said, I'm gonna correct you right now. No, 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 I'm kidding, guys. Dark humors are part of us, but we are not gonna try to make it too dark. No, I think the will to take action is very, it's a hardship, I would say, especially when I think I've touched on it before a little bit about this like paralysis of being, I feel as though hit with like all at once and then having to determine the level of prioritization for every task when I care so much about everything. That's still a lesson in itself that I'm learning and I would say trying to get better at. But sustaining that motivation, I once say we talked about environment and we talked about how it was easier while we were in college. I guess because we were surrounded by people like-minded individuals going for that same goal or something within the same realm. I would say really surrounding yourself with people, like maybe not being a support system if you don't have a support system. I know we also briefly touched about that. But if you can, like, be it go to conferences, go to talks, go to, even if it is just social settings, more so finding a way that if you can't create that community or you don't have that proximity to that community or environment of like where it's conducive to becoming the version that you want or like the things that you are trying to manifest, because you know we're big manifestors here, guys. But just trying to create the life that you want, you have to go ahead and then create that environment. I would say really try to replicate it as much as you can and have those conversations with your people. Have like those conversations of, be it wanting to go back to college. I don't know, that can be a goal for some people, like they want to go back to school. We always, education is a huge thing for both of us. Motivation, I think, as I know, as cringy as it sounds, guys, but really those podcasts, those like motivational speeches help. Like I
We're not that
know.
though. We're not that. We don't sound motivational.
I know, listen, we're okay, we're real and we're gonna give you the real, but we're also gonna tell you, hey, this is also how we did it. Okay. I think that's the difference where like we're not gonna paint you a sunshine and rainbow story. I when you look at it from like the point of view of like romanticizing your life, it's beautiful. I think you can find beauty in everything and everywhere in life. I will say though, to have gotten where we're at, it took hardship. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of will, okay? And I think to that is why I want to say like it's not just sunshines and rainbows. Um, but to continue to have sustain that motivation, I would say. Um, it's hard. I won't say it's not. I also am very at like I think very open about mental health. I think we both are. And I think also like for me, I always say like if you need that extra support, go to therapy, guys. I think everybody needs it. But at the point, I'm saying where that can be a thing, using resources. I think even just outlining your goals. But I think we can go into so many ways, but I also want to hear like Arshita and like her ways of what is it, being able to continue having is just like sustaining that motivation and will to take action.
Very, very clear on the fact that I was going through a slump, especially immediately after post-grad and still working my way through it. But one thing I will definitely agree with Pam on is like people are a really big thing. I think the more I started to kind of put a human face to the work that I was doing, like I would
Hmm.
at least visualize for myself like who were the people that my work was impacting when I couldn't see it directly. I think that helped change the game a little bit for me in terms of like how
Mm-hmm.
purposeful I felt when I was doing work that I didn't initially feel connected to. And
Yeah.
whenever I hang out with my friends, I feel a lot better because not necessarily that we're going through the same thing, don't love that for any of us, but just like seeing that these people are still trying gives me a reason to also keep trying. Some tools I'll say that like have helped at least start to get the ball rolling internally
Yeah.
for me. One thing is, and this was a really hard one, I stopped but like I stopped getting myself like treats, like not in a bad
Mm,
way. It's just
okay.
I think I ruined my own reward system and my ability to like
Ooh,
work for things because I kind of got to the stage where I was like, oh, I want this thing and I can get it. And
yeah,
I deserve it because I deserve it. And like you do deserve nice things you do, but when you get them for yourself all the time, it's really hard to like then
yeah.
train yourself to work for things because you're just giving yourself things for existing. And
I was
again,
gonna say, yeah,
it's great that you exist. I'm not trying to say that that's a bad thing. It's just like, for example,
yeah,
I like wanted to set myself up for like little like physical health challenges or like things, and I
yeah.
was like, but what would I give to myself at the end of this? Because whenever I want something, I get it for myself. So
Mm,
restructuring my reward system was a big one, and then in line with that, like putting out challenges for myself.
mm,
Made this calendar thing and it's got little stars on it. And so every single day that I finish out the things that I want to do for myself, the habits that I want to
hmm.
build, when I do all of them, I give myself a little smiley face on the calendar. And if I don't, then it's blank. And so at the end of the month, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to see how many times I completed it. And I'm hoping like that'll,
Like that'll like
yeah,
motivate, like that'll like, okay, I need to start taking action.
yeah.
I
But
agree.
again, like those things don't work when your reward system is so trashed because you just keep rewarding yourself.
Yeah,
So I think that's a good part in like building back motivation because you want to have that gratification. You want to feel like you worked for
yeah,
something. We talk so much about purpose. But if you can't give that purpose to yourself in like the ways that you need to, then you need to work on rebuilding that for yourself. So that's another thing that's really been helpful.
Yeah.
And then taking action, one of the biggest things has honestly been I am a procrastinator. I know Pam mentioned it earlier for herself, but I am big on procrastinating. I really shouldn't be, but I'm just gonna be real with it.
Same.
And so I tend to make like a lot of plans for my days, but then I'll be like, oh, but like I'll just take 5 more minutes for the thing that I'm doing currently. Do I need to? Usually not.
Yeah.
And so I think the one like promise or like step I've taken, I don't even know how to describe it, is the moment the word goes like, I'll do this in a few or I'll do this tomorrow, I will immediately drop things and just do it in that moment. Like, I won't give myself a chance
Yeah.
to keep arguing with myself to do it. I'll just do it.
I know, you know what's crazy? I have kind of a similar, I would say system, but different where if I know it's gonna take me less than a certain amount of time, I'm gonna just do it right then and there. Like, especially if it's just something so, not I would say insignificant, but just that can be completed within a
Yeah.
like 5 minute time stamp. I'm like, girl, what are you procrastinating? Because then that's
Yeah.
how those small things start adding up.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, I don't know, I think that also then helps like building, what is it, like that confidence within yourself and that
Yeah.
trust. And like, you're like,
Because you
okay, I got
deliver.
this. Like, I can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're talking about also gratification. I like the reward system that you brought up because in a day and age where we're always just getting like, what is it, gratification, even just from watching videos because we're getting that
Yeah.
instant dopamine, we need to start, what is it, having this delayed gratification and start really working for our, I would say, things that we have, not
Yeah.
in a toxic way, guys, because we are definitely deserving of everything that we have, and we should just have nice things. I'm not going to say that we're not supposed to have nice things. To that, though, I would say also, like Arshita is saying, you are, it's like it loses its allure in a way
Yeah.
when you just continue to have something and then it doesn't become, it's not anymore special, it's not anymore
Yeah.
unique. Like, you're not anymore really, like, I would say, looking at it from a different light. And even then, I also liked how you were talking about your calendar. I thought you were gonna go with because I had talked about this, but this was like before, like an audit of like 6 categories of like my life, like personal, health, wellness, like career and whatnot. That then coincides with the vision board because I said, guys, I need visuals. I need to see and like, but that's like to your point, it's like purpose and we have the intention there, but really having to then take the action and like how
Yeah.
holding ourselves accountable. And those are the next steps where I say this podcast holds is one way that it holds us accountable. Like that.
No, because I realize like I don't
Mhm.
need another self-help book. I don't need another anything. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing that will make me better. I just don't do it. Like
It's hard,
I don't need to
guys.
read any more literature about how to be better. I know the steps. I know every like major synopsis for all the really famous ones. So
No, and
that's what the calendar
it's
is more
yeah.
for, like seeing it, like having to reconcile at the end of the day whether I can put like a little smiley face on my thing or not.
And I even say honestly, pushing through the harder days.
Yeah.
Like you have to do it tired, guys. I know you have to do it even if you're annoyed. I know. I was like, you have to do it even if you're cranky. Believe me, all those 3 things that I said, that's me right after a nap, okay? And I'm like, but I have to go do it
Yeah.
because I think then I'm like, wait, when I then think about the times where I wanted to skip, but then I went to the gym, yo, I felt so good. I was like, wow, I feel in my element. I feel good. And I think also maybe in a weird way, you not gaslight yourself, but like think about it. Like you're already trying to show up as the person that you are and the person that you are trying to become. Well, you are them. So why aren't you showing up as them? And then also kind of thinking of it like I like to think of, right, we have like the past, present, future. Do it for future you. So for future you to have a better future, right? I think even just this is like small thing, but like I was thinking about the dishes because my mother gets on me about those, right, guys? It's okay, it happens, right? These are the chores. And I think about it, but then I think, okay, like we were talking about, oh, I'm gonna go do it tomorrow. But then I'm like, no, like I was like, this can get done quickly within a few minutes, one. And then B also, Pam, I think I was like, I didn't tell myself, I'm like, Pam, you have this tomorrow, you have this tomorrow. Let's do it for future you so you don't have to stress about it and worry about it. And like it's just you really are playing into, I would say, your problems if you don't become a part of the solution. And that's the whole point where, like Arshita was saying, yeah, give yourself the smiley face when you guys do your what is it, your workout, or like you finish like the not even workout, your hobbies and everything that you complete what it is that you need to be done for that day. And then from there you see. And also like I would say, oh, I think tracking your progress would be really great. Of like, okay, this is how much I was like, or this was the amount of days that I went the first. Okay, now seeing the second. And if there's been an improvement, then that's where you come even with like your reward system of like, okay, like you know what, like I can treat myself with this. And let it be something that is fueling or investing in whatever it is that you're doing. Let's say we were talking because one thing I've been wanting to go back is the gym. I'm thinking, okay, I start seeing go more consistently, buy yourself a cute workout set. Like, you know, that then it's like you start seeing more, I would say you can once you start seeing like the results or start seeing that improvement, yeah, I would say Arshia, we love these tools and resources. But that's what Pen Pals is about.
A bit of everything.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening and tuning into our episode 2 of Pen Pals. This was by yours truly, Pam.
And Arshita.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.